Sometimes it's hard to create the words into a compartmentalized organization of the chaos of your mind, but we're going to try and start here somewhere, and I guess we'll just dig a little tiny touch into the past of how we got here. And starting with the birth of America, out of an empire of conquest, denial, founded on committing genocide against the indigenous people, justified for the golden road to be manifested that was painted by theft as a purpose, built on the backs of enslaved people while preaching freedom and liberty. It was shaped by institutionalizations of schools, churches, government systems that punish truth tellers, protecting abusers, and telling you to smile for your yearbook photo. So now we live in this culture where apology is feared because it opens the door to consequences. Accountability feels like a threat to the ego rather than a path to healing. And forgiveness is demanded like a transaction instead of earned through presence, repair, through respect. Integrity has become your image is now your integrity in your social constructs, your mask. This is the inheritance of backgrounds in our religious facilities, in colonizers and kings. It's not just historical, it's genetic or energetic muscle memory through our uh, genetic past, through the history, through generational breakdowns of what has been that got us here. We were never taught how to grieve, how to listen, or how to repair our relationships. Instead, we were taught to move on, to be strong, let go, don't talk about it, it's in the past, you're too sensitive, you're making things worse by bringing it up. Then came along COVID, which amplified and mirrored this to an extreme, where there were cracks in our foundation. They were now gaping holes. The plaster falling all over the place everywhere. Isolation exposed emotional neglect. Slowness revealed avoidance. And it blew apart a lot of things. And as we were steeped in that pressure cooker, people began to panic, not just from the virus, but from the silence it brought. Where communities suffered from the root problem of having no emotional tools, no capacity to repair or try to get through this as a team together. We were told 6 feet apart over and over and over again for years. That's a lot of subliminal messaging we haven't even begun to unravel. And so when we have feelings and we bring up things to people who might have hurt us, a lot of times instead of getting any type of try or call to action for repair, a lot of people doubled down in denial because facing the truth meant feeling guilt, grief, and powerlessness in a world where we created a lack of self-worth. So instead we saw rage without reflection. Narcissism became the new diagnosed behavior that was dressed up as boundaries. Allyship became a performance act without accountability. Pretty much a cancel culture and a rise in America's favorite new love language, which is DARVO, which deny, attack, reverse, victim, offender. It became pretty much culturally normal to cut people off instead of resolve, to ghost, and it's a detriment. And then we demand others to heal by themselves without offering any type of support, while preaching kindness and while weaponizing self-help slogans. COVID didn't just break us apart, it manifested a lot of conflict within each other. It turned us against each other in a lot of ways through subliminal messaging. It also revealed a lot of cracks in our foundations, but it made us blame each other versus blaming what might have caused it in the first place. As we fight with each other, we are becoming divided, so we don't connect and we're easily controlled. And it was a global trauma with a collective initiation to coercion disguised as care. And silence around that truth is part of the spell and the hijacking of ourselves. And the world didn't just go through a health crisis, it went through a mass fracturing. People died alone, and not just physically, but spiritually, cut off by touch, song, community, rituals, you know, traditions. We killed connection. And it taught compliance is virtual and questioning is violence. And it tore apart our constructs of social um, collaboration and taught us to, it was about you versus me, us versus them, vax versus unvax, blue versus red, masked versus unmasked. Not a coincidence, but maybe a spiritual and psychological war on coherence, intuition, and our community with each other. And trauma changes the frequency, and unacknowledged trauma creates a dissonance, and that buzzing hum, that haunting feeling, that void, that heartache in the background of all of us, that's making people act hostile, not knowing why. That's why. That creates more anxious reactivity, disassociation, as well, of a detunement from one another. Some of us do remember, even into our bones, the residue in the air, the song that we used to sing. But through us now all having PTSD, instead of holding each other, we're now blaming each other. We were gaslit by systems associated by fear, and then handed mirrors and distorted our grief into rage. Now everyone's walking around raw, reactive misfiring because of wounds that are real, but the cause was erased. We don't remember, so we look at each other for those reasons why we feel that pain. We're treating the symptoms but ignoring the cause, the spell, the initiation to it all. And instead of saying we all went through something unthinkable, we say, you're selfish, you're toxic, you're crazy, and no one knows how to be wrong. And that trauma wasn't just a virus, it was abandonment, the confusion, the betrayal of truth, the weaponization of science, community, and care for one another. What was needed was kindness, grief circles, holding gentleness, and what we got was scrolling, shaming, dividing. But some people, some dandelions, we're still here. We're learning, and we're growing up through the cracks and whispering for us, hey, remember, it wasn't your fault and it wasn't mine. It wasn't theirs either. We were all torn apart at the seams. We were all torn apart at the seams. This was a divide and conquer. This was them trying to spray us away, and we're not going to let that happen. And we start by creating and co-creating what we want to see. And some of the steps are taking the accountability of opening the door to one of the biggest pleasures we can get out of life, and that is resolving conflict within each other, to mending. When we mend our relationships, we actually create happiness, and that's where I think our positivity comes through, is through coming back together, and not through the false reality that they're trying to dictate. Don't listen to the whole you got to do it by yourself thing, because this is like Pluto entered Aquarius. This is about collective. This isn't individualism, and hyper independence is what they're pushing, and that is not, that's how we isolate, and that through that is how we become conquered. So we need to remember who we are, and what we are is connection to everything. They're trying to kill our connection to the earth, the planet. That's why we erase the indigenous, is we don't have their history. We have fragments of it because it was connection to what we are and how we are associated with the earth, our home, our mother. Death to the mother killers, because they're trying to destroy nurture. And it's time to say no and protect the mother, because we love her, and it's Mother's Day. And happy Mother's Day to all mothers out there, including our planet. I love you. Thank you.